Yo, what's going on, man? Hope you're good. As you can see, I'm at the school right now. I don't really like hearing my voice echo, but wanted to get this breakdown or analysis, or whatever you want to call it, down, so you could, take something away from this. And everything I say in this is definitely a suggestion, definitely something that can be a conversation starter with, a coach that you trust, or even me. But I really think you could take something away from this and understanding your body a little bit more, and what's going on in the movement side of things. Um, Second thing is understand that we've had this conversation about like layback and not having a pushy arm. The thing is you have the ability to throw with a non-pushy arm. I've seen you do it. I've seen you be at 175 degrees of layback. I literally watched a video of you doing it. So get it out of your head right now that you're like, man, I don't know. Like I have a pushy arm. Like I wish I had this person's layback. Like understand you're going to have that layback if you put the right pieces in play and you do the correct things. So let's get right into it, man. First thing I want to talk about is before I like get into your video at all is so we're gonna identify and then we're gonna do comparisons between like what it looks like at the highest level and what you look like and what we can take away from that, and then we're gonna go over some solutions. But why is it important? There's you're gonna hear me say like three things a lot, which is like layback, or external rotation. And this is external rotation in the shoulder, and this is internal rotation in the shoulder. And then I'm going to say pulling with your chest or pulling with your pec, and scap retraction. Okay. So the reason why those three things are important is number one, layback is just shown to correlate to velocity. Good layback correlates to good velocity, and we could just isolate that to external rotation because layback is multiple different things. But it is shown that like if you look at a weighted ball program, if you've done correctly, it increases velocity. And there's a reason why it increases velocity because heavy plyo balls increase external rotation increases velocity. But it also increases the chance of injury. That's just how things work. The harder you throw, the more chance you have of injuring yourself. And we look at you and how you tore your UCL. Like, man, you're like 10 months out. You know, you've been up to 85, and that's fucking awesome. Like, you should be really proud of that. But we got to figure out what's going to get you to 90. And I don't think we can just look at the last 2, 3, 4 weeks and be like, okay, this is what's going on. We need to go all the way back to even maybe pre Tommy John, and post Tommy John, work ourselves up to where we are right now. So this is you probably 3.5 months out of Tommy John. One of your probably lowest intensity throws throwing a baseball. Just take a look. So I know on this format it's going to look really choppy. Just like the video frames itself, it's going to look choppy. But if we slow it down and we just look at your layback itself, that's pretty elite. That's 175 degrees of layback or 180. And this is why I say this is a testimony to why I believe you have the capabilities of having a non-pushy arm action and throwing the shit out of the ball, while laying back and looking extremely smooth. So this is my big testimony right here because we've done it before. We've just lost that feeling, and we have to ask ourselves why. Like, why are you not getting in this position right now? And I think it falls on two things. The two things I think it falls on is the fact that how you're moving right now is not correlating to a position like this. So you're not able to get into a position like this just because of how you're moving. Okay. The second thing is I really believe that you're not comfortable in a position like this at a high intensity. And we've had that conversation before. So it's something I could definitely see. So we need to be able to get comfortable with being in a position like this. You know, your mechanics are really limiting you from getting into a position like this. But even if they weren't, coming back from Tommy John is really hard because this is the position where you felt your UCL tear. Okay, so you need to get comfortable at doing this at a low intensity, and we're definitely going to revisit solutions and how we could do that later on in the video. So I definitely think we're just going to focus right now on the arm path and the arm action itself, because that's a whole task on its own, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of looking at your lower body and looking at other smaller things that aren't causing you as big of issues. But let's just play this one time through. So this was you're probably 82 to 83 in this, which is awesome. Like I said, you've been up to 85. I think I kind of know that most of your issues are coming from the arm path itself. As you can see, the side view is very good in understanding. If we were just isolating the upper body itself, the side view is very good to see that the way your elbow, the way your arm moves before you release the ball. So you can see right here, like the indent in your elbow, right now you're above your shoulder plane. You can see like your shoulder plane right here, like you're above your shoulder plane. And like I talked about scap retraction. So scap retraction is this motion right here. So you'll see a lot of highlight, we're going to see it later. High level throwers, they retract and then they get into flip up. You are not going to be able to retract your scap if your elbow is above your shoulder plane. Like you might be able to a little, but it's definitely limiting you if it's above. If you just were to test this right now, where you go like this and you were to retract your scap with your shoulders level, okay, your arm level with your shoulders, and then do it above, feel the difference between how little you can retract when your arm is just a little bit above. Just feel that right now, and you'll be able to understand, like, okay, like my arm is in this position. How am I going to be able to retract my scaps while being in a position like this? So from here, the only place, and what this is called is your elbow is hiking. It's hiking. Okay, that's basically what it's called. So if we just were to continue, now it levels out, and it actually turns into a bit of a low elbow. What I mean by that, it's like you see how you were up, now it's a little bit below your shoulder plane, and then from there you start to pull into release, try to get a little bit of layback, and by then it's just like your arm has been in three different positions, like you're laying back extremely late, which is also limiting you from layback in itself. And then from there, it levels out again and you release the ball. So as you can see, this is why your arm path looks really, really choppy, really, really pushy. So by no means am I telling you to like aggressively like retract your scaps. Like that's not what I'm telling you at all. I'm telling you the way we get into our scap deeply is through a more efficient arm path. And as you can see in this video, and you could even see it in the other video, like your arm path is just not setting you up well to release the ball. So as you can see, your elbow hikes up and you were like, it's your arm path kind of just like, you kind of just like rise it up and you kind of retract at the end, just a little bit. Okay, but not a lot. And then from there, the only thing you can really do is push the ball, and you can see it really evidently in this, how it's like your arm is staying at a 90-degree angle. When your torso starts to fire and you start to rotate, your arm isn't laying back at all. It's just staying at a 90-degree angle until about 2 frames later. And then it starts to finally get into some type of external rotation, and then you release the ball. So it's still coming out really good. It's just the fact, like, this is why it looks the way it is. It's also, the other thing is because you can't retract at all, you can't pull with your pec. Now, I'm going to show you afterwards a video of Jacob deGrom. He does it beautifully, but I'm going to try to explain what I mean by pulling with your pec, because I'm going to be throwing the word around a lot. The scap, okay, so retracting your scaps, so your scap and your pec, are directly correlated to each other. That's something that is really important to know. The scap and the pec are directly correlated to each other. So if you're not retracting your scap efficiently, you're not going to be able to necessarily pull with your pec. And pulling with your pec, what that basically means, it's a stretch shortening cycle. And it might sound complicated, but it's not at all. If you were to think of a rubber band and you were to pull that rubber band and stretch it and stretch it and stretch it and then let it go, it would explode. Okay. You would stretch it all the way and it would go. It would have that like explosion of like, you ever try to hit someone with a rubber band, you pull it all the way back and then it just flies. That's what your pec does. It acts as a accelerator. So if you can't get into some scap retraction, you're not going to be able to pull with this pec and have that explosion, which are two main contributors in velocity when it comes to the upper body. And I'm going to show you Jacob deGrom right now, who does it really, really well, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Now, I know it's like, man, I'm showing you Jacob deGrom. Just understand, like, Jacob deGrom is the best in the world, and he's a great example of what a clean, efficient arm path looks like. So let's get right into it. So we can see right here. So let's just go slowly. So his arm path, he starts to get into the swing of his arm path, and right here he starts retracting his scaps. Okay, he's retracting. And then from here, from this frame on to foot strike, he starts to get into a flipped up position. This is a flipped up position. Okay. We can see that right now. Okay, so this is foot strike from him. This is the really important part. At foot strike, he is just primed to unleash hell behind his head. It looks like from this next frame on, his arm is just lagging behind his head, and he's just basically pulling with his torso, pulling with his pec or his chest. And you can see it right here. Like his arm is just lagging behind his head, and he's pulling with this right here. And this video is a great example of what I mean by pulling with the pec. And then he just explodes and unleashes the ball. Now, if he never retracted his scap in the first place and never had an efficient arm path, he wouldn't be able to pull with his pec. So that's why, they're directly correlated to each other, and it's really important that it's something we need to work on 100%, or you need to work on with one of your pitching coaches. And then if we were to just take a look at you, like how you can evidently see, like, okay, you get the foot strike, okay, elbow hiked up, whatever. Like, this is not a position that's priming you to pull with your pec or to really use any acceleration. Like, you'll see, like, there's no pulling going on here. You're basically just pushing the ball. Like, if you were pulling with your pec, this arm would look like it's a little bit behind your head, and that's not happening right now. So that's one of the reasons why it's pushy, because you're not activating your pec. You're not activating your pec at all, and you're not retracting your scaps. And I know I've said it like 30 times, but there you go. Last thing before we go over solutions, I just want you to look at how in this video where you have 175 degrees of layback, by no means is this beautiful or perfect or pretty. You're 3.5 months out of Tommy John or whatever you were, but your elbow does not hike at all. And by no means is this a good position, because you're literally from here. You still do it sometimes. The only place you can go is like spiral out. You can't use your chest or your torso at all to pull into release. And from here, the only thing you can do is kind of just spiral. And that's just not an efficient way to throw. And sometimes you still do it, but you're still at 175 degrees of layback. And we need to figure out how we can get back there. All right, so how do we get back there? I definitely think, number one, I think we need to check your pec and your scap, and just see, with you yourself, just get a lacrosse ball in there or a baseball in there up against the wall, and just at a scale 1 to 10, feel how inflamed that is, and the number you come up to will definitely determine how much work you need to put into soft tissue. Because if this is too tight, if your scap is too tight, it's going to be affecting pain, maybe, or just the inability to use the muscle itself. So that's something you need to check with soft tissue work. The second thing is, I think plyos are going to be massive for you in regards to unlocking a better arm path. And the reason I say that is because you can't just show up tomorrow after watching this video and be like, all right, my arm's going to change. Like, you've thrown with a no offense, pretty terrible arm path and arm action for the last 2 years, even prior to Tommy John, that one day is not going to fix everything. So what would happen, what would be smart, is if we did lead ups, if we did backwards chaining is the word. So backwards chaining is basically, if you think of a chain, think of the pitching motion as a chain. You have the start of the chain and you have the end of the chain. The end of the chain is ball release. The start of the chain is picking up your leg. We would start at the end of the chain. So that would look like a 10 toes drill. These are drills you've done before. 10 toes drill right here. Okay. And then we turn our body and we get into a lasso. And then we would do some type of rhythm rocker. Then we would do a step back, and we would progress all the way back through the pitching motion. But the drills that would be picked would be ones that would specifically hammer on the fact that you are extremely pushy. Like this, you would not be able to do. If I put you in a drill like this right now, and I asked you to throw a blue or a green ball, which I've seen you do before, you would not be able to lay back in this type of position. And the reason why that is because you would compensate and you would just push the ball. You would not be able to get into this position. Okay. So being able to comfortably throw with a heavier ball at an extremely low intent will be really helpful in unlocking more layback. But I do think the plyo drills themselves and the backwards chaining will really help you translate to throwing a baseball off of a mound. And of course, this is a conversation for you to have with your pitching coach. And even if if you want to, but that's my 2 cents on more than just 2 cents, probably 20 minutes worth of what I see when it just comes to your arm action itself and what I would do to fix it. Because you can't just show up tomorrow and be like, yeah, I'm just gonna like pull into my scap. It's like, don't ever try to get into your scap more unnaturally. It's the worst thing you could ever do. Don't try to do that. But you can't just show up the next day and be like, yeah, it's gonna change. It takes building. Okay, you can't just build a building in a day. It's gotta be built up level by level. But yeah, man, I appreciate you, and I hope you watch this whole video through. So have a. So I was just thinking about this because I just got home, and I harp on the plyo balls, but I think if the weighted balls are not, if you're not doing the correct weighted ball exercises in the correct manner with the correct set of eyes on you, it could be really hard to see the results out of them. And I feel like you would have seen the results where you wouldn't be pushing the ball and your upper body would be really clean if the plyo balls were translating, which I don't think they are right now because I feel like you're just pushing them, like what you're doing with your throwing. But we could talk more on that later. But I just think all I wanted to say, man, is like this. I hope this video fires you up, man, because like awareness was just brought to how choppy your upper body is, and you're still able to get 84, 85 out of your body because you're a rotational stake. And if that just cleans up, like it fires me up, bro, because it's like I just think like, okay, clean up arm path, and if that arm path that cleans up, helps with the scap and the pec and the external rotation, like that's a massive number. That's a huge number above the one you're thinking above in regards to velo. And that should fire you up, man, because like it's something that's a huge possibility. Like you should never be like, fuck, man, my upper body's bad. Like, no, man, your upper body's bad and you're able to throw 84, which means when it's good, you're able to throw 94. Like, I just threw that number out of my ass, but it's just like, understand, like, this is a great opportunity for you, man. And I hope you got something out of this video. If you didn't, that's fine. If you did, that's great. But let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. I'm all ears for anything you have to say, man. But I love you. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for every human being, as you know. And have a great day, man.